When it comes to self improvement, I feel like we have to learn to stop treating ourselves so much like a project. Realize that if we're gonna grow and if we're gonna change in any type of positive way, we have to come from it from a positive place. And treating yourself like a project, treating yourself like something that constantly needs to be changed and it needs to be fixed in order for it to be valid is unrealistic. We have to accept where we are before we acknowledge where we want to go. You have to acknowledge who you are before you acknowledge who you want to be. And if you're treating yourself like a project and you're only living in reference to some sort of ideal self, then I don't think you'll ever accept yourself. Because the more we keep that image of us separate, the more it is separate. The more we convince ourselves that it's not here, that it's not currently here, the more it isn't. You know, you have everything you need and you are everything you need to be already. You know, whoever you want to become and whoever you were is all here right now. It's just about acknowledging the fact that it is here, not acknowledging that it is separate. To truly improve, I feel like in any ways to first accept how you are, then accept how the world is. And then understand what you need to do in order to make yourself more comfortable within the world. And treating yourself like a project, I don't feel like it gets you there. It gets you into a place where everything you do is in reference to something that isn't you. You know, self improvement, I feel like, has made, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing, has made people feel like they have to change themselves entirely, which is not necessarily true. You know, I don't feel like you should be fake to yourself in any way. I feel like self improvement in a real sense is becoming yourself, becoming aware of yourself, not necessarily changing yourself into something completely different. You know, you can have your flaws, you can have your negative parts, but, you know, all it takes is a little bit of renovation, a little bit of taking the negative and turning it positive. But at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge that whatever that is you. Whatever it is you, and whatever you become will be you as well. You know, I feel like the self is something we don't necessarily leave behind. And I know people like, you know, I still carry the idea that there's like a second self. Like once you realize that you have sort of the power, you have sort of the control over yourself. And that's the person aspect of it. That's treating yourself like a person, treating yourself like somebody you care about. Instead of treating yourself like something you have to manage, something you have to fix. Because you don't have to be fixed. You have to be realized. You have to come to understand that you're not going to grow from any place of negativity or any place of comparison to something that isn't real. And a lot of times we keep this fictitious image of ourselves, this perfect image of ourselves in our head when it comes to whatever we do. And it's not healthy, in my opinion. You know, it's one thing to acknowledge that you can do anything, because you can. You know, to know it's humanly possible means you too can do it. But doing your best doesn't always mean that you succeed. And I don't mean that to sound negative anyway, but doing your best just means doing your best. So when you fail, you can just tell yourself, I did my best. You put all your effort in, you put yourself into the situation, you learned what you could because you were present and you were there. And I feel like we just have to internalize that. You know, you lose nothing in trying, but gain everything in success. It's about your continued progression and continual effort into becoming a better person, into loving yourself into becoming a better person, not hating yourself into becoming a better project. It doesn't work like that. You know, I feel like when we do that, then we sort of get lost when it comes to our emotion and things that sort of bring out the true nature of ourselves. Because what I've realized is change happens whether you like it or not. Whether or not it's positive through thought, through consciousness, meditation, mindfulness, you know, becoming aware of yourself and doing what you need to do in order to be at peace with yourself, or you get thrown into a situation where you're forced to see yourself, where you're forced to see that negativity. And regardless of which, you know, it's that personal aspect of it that makes it so immense and intense and intimate, you know. And when we don't acknowledge the fact that it needs to be like that in a way, that it has to be like that in order to actually change, then we're stuck with the negative option. Because if we're treating ourselves like a project, then we build ourselves up for these fictitious scenarios, and then we're in those scenarios, we're in that place, and we're not accepting ourselves. We're not being present because we're too focused on what we're doing, too focused on that. We don't have faith in self. That whenever something does come up, I feel like we get so lost in it that we forget to be ourselves. and we try to play out this role so fervently, and then when our real self pokes through, that's when our anxiety hits, because we feel like we're not supposed to be there in a certain situation, but you're always supposed to be there. The space you take up is yours. It doesn't matter where you are. Peace exists everywhere you are. It's a state of mind. It's not necessarily a place. And that's why I feel like it's very important for people to try to get a grasp on it, because I feel like I really didn't get a grasp on it till recently. And, it kind of changed the way I do everything. It makes everything a little less stressful when you're treating yourself like a person. Acknowledging that you can have ups and downs, but trying your best. And when you're treating yourself like a person, then you realize you have to have some give here, you have to have some give there. Like, sometimes you can't do everything you want on your plate, but you do your best. You do what you can. Do what you can with what you have, and you'll get everything you need. It's the lack of expectation for us to be perfect. And I think that's the project thing. That's what separates a person from a project, is their expectation of themselves. Of course, you can hold yourself to a high standard, but that's not necessarily within, that part of who you are as a person. Holding yourself to a high standard isn't necessarily expecting perfection out of yourself. It's just expecting yourself to try and apply yourself to a certain degree. And I think a lot of people have to learn and give themselves grace. You have to sort of let yourself go in more ways than one, because, if we're constantly suppressing these parts of ourselves that are seeking our change, then we can never see them. Like I said in a couple of videos before, you can't heal from a wound you don't acknowledge. And a lot of times the wound is us. A lot of ways we're just healing from ourselves. And I know I probably just dropped the video on that, but it's very true. The way we treat ourselves and the way we think about ourselves ultimately governs the way we traverse the world. It governs the way we are. And if we're constantly caught up in a world where, again, we aren't sufficient, we're living in reference to something that doesn't exist, and we can't ever be the subject. Because as long as your mind keeps thinking of yourself as a project, then there's no way to escape that self that you're comparing yourself to. The mind is a tool, not a console. And I had to keep reminding myself this in these past days, because, your mind can think about anything. Your mind can overthink, and it's not going to overthink itself to not think. You have to make it stop thinking. You have to be present, be within the moment, because that's where your power is. That's where your energy is. That's where you can control whatever. If you're constantly stuck in your mind, and you're just stuck in the same place stagnant. Like, I think thinking of yourself in like a third person perspective helps out sometimes, because, when you're sitting there overthinking, you're sitting in the same spot. You're just thinking, or you're pacing, doing whatever you need to do, but you have to come to the realization that you're taken away from your moment, taken away from your opportunity to actually change whatever you're thinking about. Because if you're constantly caught in thought, then that's all you're doing. A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think of but thoughts. And if all you can do is think about it, then it's probably not worth thought. A lot of our change can't necessarily be expressed the second we come to our realization. You have to wait for its application and wait for the opportunity, and not necessarily preface it. I feel like sometimes we get into such a habit of like, we do like one meditation, one guided thing, and then we brace ourselves for a situation, and we think, okay, now that I'm like this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that. And I don't think it's necessarily bad to think about that, but I don't think we should live in that. You can do whatever. You can do anything. And I think it's about acknowledging that you could do everything right here and now. Not necessarily thinking, oh, if I'm in this situation, I know it'll be okay. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what that situation holds. And if we think about it in a certain way, and then it's different from the way we thought, then that's when it starts to crumble. That's when that project stops being a person. And you start to shine through, and you start to, see that part of yourself that you don't want to see. Because you're not accepting the way you are. You're trying to be something you're not. And if we can accept the way we are, then whenever we're put into a situation, no matter what it is, if you can accept yourself, then you can accept the situation. Because no matter what it is, it's about having faith in self. Realizing that whatever you come across is something you can handle, because you've handled everything else you've come across in your entire life. Literally everything. If you're watching this video, you've made it to this point. Why not keep going? Why not keep the journey going? Because there's so much beauty left to see. I feel like at any age, I don't feel like there's ever going to be an age where I'm not appreciative of life, as long as I have any control of it. I'm going to try to appreciate whatever I can, because this is the space I take up. It's my vicinity. This is what I can do with what I have. And life is too short to be focused on what you do not possess, especially when one of the best possessions you can have, the only possession you can have, is yourself, is you. That's why I feel like it's very important to be intent with treating yourself like a person. You know, it's sort of the same thing as treat yourself like a friend, but in a sense that self-improvement feels like a very personal project, very personal thing. You know, you have to stop making it so much of a project, because you're just a person. You know, you can have your faults, and you already are somebody. You don't become somebody, you are somebody. You just become more aware of it. You just become more aware of what you like, what you want to do with your life, and that can only happen as long as you're present enough to see those things. If you're living in this project, then you don't have time to think about what you really want. You have time to think about who you want to be, and you might think of how that looks, how you want to interact with certain things. But I think we all did that. I did that a lot as a kid. Like, you know, like right before school starts, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be so locked in this year, and you like get all your notebooks and stuff. You're like, man, I'm about to be studying for hours on end just cause. And I don't necessarily know if this is directly correlated, but it's something like that. Like we bolster this up so much, then we get into the situation, and it's not necessarily what we expected it to be. We don't feel the way we expect it to feel, and because of that, we're set back. It's about not placing your feelings in front of you, keeping your feelings with you. You know, that's like another thing with manifestation and bringing whatever future you want into your reality. It's about not necessarily putting it or place distance from yourself, but bringing it here, having that gratitude for what you have yet to receive, you know, and expecting nothing. Keeping that positive intention allows things to come your way, and a lot of times, because if you feel like you already are deserving, you feel grateful for it, whenever an opportunity shows up, your mind is going to go to that opportunity. Your mind's going to show you that opportunity because you're already grateful for it. You're already living in it. And once you're able to do that, once you're able to truly live in the present moment, then I feel like there's no limit to what you can do. Because you're not a project, you're a person. But you're a great one. You know, you're someone that actually exists. You're alive. You know, you sort of have to treat yourself like that. You know, you fall down, you get up. Sometimes falling is affirmation that you were standing. It's just about, you know, coming to terms with the fact that you will make mistakes. And the only way to truly, I feel like, mitigate mistakes, at least in my perspective, is to understand that you can't predict everything, and you can't alter anything or change your ways or change the way things are. And you can't change the way things are going to be if you're not in the present moment. I can think about what I'm going to do in the future. Oh man, like I got this test coming up. I got this test. Oh, I'm so stressed about this test. And you're just overthinking about the test. What am I going to do if I fail? How about you study? How about you, like, you know, I feel like the present moment, when you apply yourself, that's when you can actually alter the way things are going to be in a little bit of a sense. You know, overthought and thought about nothing doesn't really help. What helps is putting thoughts to action. Taking the time to treat yourself like a person. Realize that you are instantiated. You take up space. So you have to use it to whatever degree you want. You know, I take up space, so I'm going to do what I can with the space to make sure my space is beautiful. And at the end of the day, you know, treating myself more like a person. Like I am just that person. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate all of y'all. A lot more on the way. I don't know when this is coming out. I started prepping my videos. But I hope you all are doing okay. Oh, hold on, chat. Y'all want hats? What y'all want, man? It's something I had cooked up for me. But all in all, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you all are taking care of yourself, treating yourself like a person. Because at the end of the day, all you have is you, and all you need is you. You don't, not all you have, but all you need is you. You know, you are sufficient. However you are, you don't have to fix yourself. You know, you just have to focus on yourself and be yourself. So, thank you. Keep being y'all, and